Welcome to Sharpen the Axe. Explore the bleeding edge of guitar and bass gear. Discover a sound uniquely your own and cut through the noise. With your hosts, Eric Lucero and Paul Berezetsky.
Very awesome. Great way to open up a Sharpen the Axe. And welcome, guys. I'm Eric Lucero.
I'm Paul Berezetsky.
And we are here today with Mr. Stephen Pfister. Welcome.
Hey now. It's great to be here, everybody. Thanks for coming down.
Hey, anytime. Yeah, we're at his home studio here in Los Angeles. Why don't you introduce yourselves for those who may not know who you are, who you played with? And you got to play with a lot of great people, too.
Mostly these days, I'm a solo artist, and I make records. And some of the past have been I've had some time with Michael DeBars, Lita Ford, Pat Travers Band, John Kay and Steppenwolf, Jack Cassidy, and tons more. Very grateful to keep going and play with a lot of great, really diverse talents, and Mr. Tommy Heath too, a great songwriter. Awesome. So yeah, I get the best of both worlds.
So you've been working hard for quite a long time in this industry here.
Oh, longer than I'd like to admit to.
So you are currently going to be touring, or will be touring in the next year.
Yeah.
So what you have been playing GODIN.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you have in your arms here. You got the Summit Classic Supreme.
This is a Supreme.
Summit Supreme there.
Right. And it's mahogany body, maple top, and it's got these really crazy cool boutique pickups in it. And Eric, you know a lot about them, but they're, so maybe you could help me out a little bit.
Oh, they're Lawler El Rayos, which are, if you're a single coil guy who doesn't like humbuckers, these are the ones that are convert you.
That's me.
Yeah, there we go. Paul's all about that. And they, would you agree from what you heard so far? They got a lot more clarity than your usual humbucker.
Mm-hmm. I found they're like P90s on steroids.
Yeah.
Without the hum.
Yeah.
So that's what I found from them. You can get when you roll your guitar down, and I'm a big volume control guy. I'm not like, let's step on this and step on presets.
Yeah.
I like to kind of get the sound, and you can go from there to, and how hard you pick. I find these pickups really respond to the dynamics of the pick attack. So if I'm playing, or, but it's without touching the volume control.
Oh, wow.
So they're really dynamic, and then you can see we can go from anything in between. And if you want to push over the hill, then you've got some stuff on the floor.
That's true. So
nice.
It's a very classic. It's 24 and 3/4 scale there, and maple cap on a mahogany body.
Yes, indeed.
And what else differentiates this from other similar builds for you?
You know, what's made my life really, really, really good for traveling is the Richlight fingerboard. And it's a composite wood. And let's face it, guys, you know, ebony's hard to get. And if you get a piece of ebony, it's got to be, 70 years old by now to actually make it to be part of a guitar neck, you know? And it's kind of hard. And we're taking away some of our natural resources. So Robert Godin had this idea for this composite wood. And I thought, well, composite wood, that's like a cheaper alternative, but it's actually more expensive. And it's really dense. So the notes really do fly off the guitar. And so the other advantage, other than the immediacy of the notes, are the fact that when you're traveling, it's a very dense piece of wood, this fingerboard. So the neck doesn't, I can remember just recently we played a gig in Florida, 100% humidity, just terrible. And then we flew right to Chicago the very next day. And the guitar neck, straight as exactly the way I like it set. So it made a believer out of me. It just really, I'm sure setup guys don't like it because I don't go to the guitar shop as much anymore because I don't need that extra tweaking. So that's one feature. One other quick thing that the guys at Godin do that make it a little bit different is they have this revoicer switch. And it's this little inconspicuous little push button deal. And what it does is it makes the pickups active. And I guess the best way for me to explain it is the fact that, say your guitar is flat on a curve, it makes it more of a smile. You boost the highs and boost the lows. And let me give you an idea. We'll go with our favorite rock and roll A chord. And I'll press the button. Take it off.
It's an active circuit, right?
It's an active circuit. It runs on a tiny little battery.
Like a watch battery, like not like a 9-volt.
It's not a 9-volt. It's some tiny little watch battery type deal. And I'm told that you can leave the guitar plugged in for 4 years and it never needs changing.
Oh, really?
I haven't tested it yet.
Yeah.
But
and if it does die, you just take the switch off and you're back to just passive.
Yeah, and which most of the time, I found this to be very, very, useful on a fly gig when you're playing through a Rena amp. And you need, sometimes something in the EQ just isn't happening, and you want that little extra push to 11. Yeah. This will give it to you. So it's an extra added feature, and it's unobtrusive. It doesn't, get in the way of anything really, and you can access it pretty easy. So those are a couple of features that I think they're forward thinking, and they make it a little bit different from the pack.
And Godin has made a very good tour-ready guitar for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And it, like you said, the backline problems you may get from rentals, that high-definition revoicer switch can take care of it for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You get backline companies. Sometimes you'll have the greatest sounding backline ever, and other nights you're just going, wow, who threw a blanket over the speaker? Yeah. You just never really know. But the idea of surviving today, in the modern world and getting on an airplane and playing gigs, which we all have to kind of do at one time or another, is to be able to deal with whatever they throw at us. Yeah. The survival.
Well, actually, here's a question for you then, because I deal with a lot of customers at Pitbull Audio who are looking for cases and really want to know when they're going to be flying here or there. So what are your hints and tips for those who need to fly with their instruments or amps or pedals for keeping everything safe? Because you never know what you're going to get with any of the airlines, unfortunately.
Flying is part of it. And, if you can generally, I've been taking my stuff on with a gig bag. And I pack my gig bag as far as I can, with whatever cables. And I've taken my pedal board. When I have the luxury of being able to, check a bag, if it's anything more than a couple of days, then you can check the bag. Of course, to whoever's hiring me, it's an extra $150. Yeah. Sometimes they get a little, they get a little cheap. But on those occasions where you can't, you just have to make sure you get in the first boarding group. Just be really nice to everybody, and supposedly you can bring on a guitar. They're supposed to be a musicians union thing, but really, folks, what really happens is when you get on the plane, they can do whatever they want to do to you. So
Yeah.
it always, helps to be really nice. Get in the first boarding group.
Tase you and pull
They
you
can-
off of there, kicking, screaming, and
haul you
bleeding.
down the aisles.
They can, yeah, exactly. So I've been really fortunate this year. We've done a ton of fly gigs, and everybody's been pretty cool, and I've been pretty lucky. So I pull the guitar out, boom, it's relatively in tune, unless you get that lady who's got the baby stroller,
Oh boy, yeah.
and they got 500 things, and they throw their stuff up on top of your guitar as you're sitting there in the window seat, which I prefer, and you're going, anyway.
Yes.
but-
I'm surprised to hear a gig bag and not a case.
Yeah,
actually.
not a hard case?
Yeah.
Hard case,
They take up a lot of space on a plane. I guess you may not be able to get that into the overhead.
That in the overhead. The bass players sometimes have problems because they're just a little bit longer, and if we try to make sure that the planes are, that we can fit a gig bag in. So far, like I said, knock on wood, I've been really, really lucky.
Right on.
To be able to do that. So
And
thank
just
goodness.
to jump in here for a second, anyone watching live on Facebook right now, we're going to be doing a Q&A with Steve at the second half of this episode. So if you guys have a question for Steve, whether it be tips, tricks, techniques, gear related, any of
Cooking
the
recipes.
cooking recipes,
Yeah. All of the above, really. Life advice.
what he likes to do on a
anything.
first date, just put
I
a
can
comment in on
I
the
can
Facebook
help.
comments. We'll get you your question answered right live on air.
And it'd be fun. If you got any questions, anything you want to know, submit it, put it in the comments, and Paul, you'll be checking those out, right?
Yep.
So jumping back to the gear real quick, so we covered the guitars, these amazing Godins you're playing. What is the rest of your rig right now?
What we're playing through here today, we have, I'm basically running through, I have a 50-watt Marshall. It's an old guy. And
800.
you got an old 800. And some of the things I like, a real sleeper amp, which we were talking about earlier, is I think they were mid-90s, PV Classic 50s.
Yeah.
And they're EL84 amps. They come with a great spring reverb, an effects loop, 2 channels, and I have a great tech here in LA. I have 3 of them. I just love these amps, and I've really not found anything, as long as they're maintained properly, I've never, knock on wood, had a failure, like on a gig where something goes wrong.
I used to have one, and then I sold it. And
Tell
then
the story.
I got it for a steal. I got it for like $220 or something.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. And for some reason, after a while, like it's a pretty heavy thing to lug around
It is.
on gigs, and it kind of got a little bit annoying for me. And I got a Mesa Boogie that I kind of started gigging with, and I sort of forgot about this thing, and I just I needed some cash, and I decided to sell it on Craigslist. So I set it up to make sure everything is working fine, waiting for the guy to show up. I plug in, and this thing just sings. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Maybe he won't show up.
It's the one that got away.
And he showed up, and and I'm trying to like, oh, look, it's kind of like, it's got some kind of like hissy thing with it. Maybe the tubes are going. You're sure you want it? He's like, I want this. And I felt bad for making him go down there. I didn't want to be like, look, I changed my mind. So I let him have it, and I just like wanted to cry after that.
One thing I find about the Classic 50s is that when I'm trying out different effects here in my studio, like echo effects or what have you, I find that the 410 configuration really closely, even with the open back, closely mimics my favorite 4x12 cabinet. A lot of my EQ settings stay the same with the 4x12s that I'll use, either out on the road or here in the studio. I have a couple in the ISO room. And that's why the amp, I just find it so versatile. It's not like you really have to 180 change as you're trying to figure out EQ and sounds and things. So the designer who made these amps at Peavey, by the way, runs a company called Amp Tweaker. He runs, that's James Brown.
Really?
His name is James Brown, Mississippi dude, and he's a really cool guy. And we talked about this design, and he's the guy that came up with it, and it works great. So there's a sleeper amp you can
The
pick
ones
them
from
up.
like 91, 92, those early mid-90s are the ones.
There's a couple eras of Peavey that have a cults on them. Like the 70s solid state stuff is actually super desirable.
Is it really now?
Yeah,
Right.
the old Mark IVs on bass. But the Peavey classics from the 90s, as you guys have been saying,
Right.
people love them, snatch them up. You don't see one on Reverb or eBay for very long. these days.
Maybe we shouldn't be talking about it. Maybe
Nah.
The value just went up $200 in the past couple minutes.
that's crazy, but it's true.
But it does make for a gorgeous sounding rig. Just sounding killer.
Oh, cool.
You want to play something else for us?
Yeah, why don't we do, we'll do a little thing where we play some octave playing, and I'll use some more of the different distortion sounds. And personally, I'm not a 2-channel or even 3-channel kind of guy, the preset stuff. Again, it's volume control with me and pickup selection. There's so much subtlety you can get, by just varying your volume now. And that's loud, and this is louder. And then you've got all the variations, with the pickup selector. And I'm not saying it's a lost art, but it's a way that you can really have more of a connection with the instrument. And that's kind of the way I do it. Anyway, that's what we're just playing to some basic bass and drum tracks. And I'm just playing everything on the fly here on the floor. So, want to give it a whack?
Absolutely. Let's hear it.
Just a quick comment on the lost art. The art of it is really a lot easier to do when you're playing quality pickups that they have to respond. If you roll back on the volume a little bit and your whole high end disappears, then it's not quite the same.
And then we can get into cables and things. And, people go a little bit crazy and a little bit anal with the cables, but, simplicity and low capacitance. Yes. When you're on the long cable runs, that's really all it is. It's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, paper quality too. I mean, you want to cheap out on cables, but you get some low quality, couple dollar cables, and you wonder where that hum's coming from. That's one of the first places to check.
You got some pedals, you got all this stuff, then you got issues. So yeah, you don't want to do that when you're out on the gig. You want to make your life as easy as possible.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. So what do you say we play a little Wes?
Sure.
I'm always down for some Mr. Montgomery.
Here we go. So here's a basic track, and we're going to see if we can play this thing.
again, guys, if you're watching, if you have any questions for Steve, submit it in the comments on Facebook, on the EnterTalk Radio Facebook page. He'll tell you exactly which crossroads he went to, which devil to summon to get these kinds of playing skills. The terms and conditions. Yeah. That's right. That's right. The fine print. This is the man.
Come on, ask me. I'll tell you. Believe me.
So you just showed some variance in style there. I mean, you can cover it all from blues, rock, jazz. So tell me about your how you came up music-wise. What led you to where you are today?
Well, I got a microphone that just fell out. That's all right. I'll hold on to it. You know, basically, when I was coming up, it was such a strong blues influence that I always liked, and I liked the whole idea that it was off there. Thank you.
You're rocking too hard.
Cool. That's what happens.
You know you're good when microphones are falling off all over the place.
You can't stop the rock and roll. So, you know, a really heavy blues influence, and I came up in the time of a lot of fusion music, really exciting times. There was everything from soul music to really heavy rhythm and blues to rock and roll and slide guitar. There was just something that really meant to me when I heard a blues player. And the real guys, like all the Kings are obviously huge influences for me, particularly Freddie King. Freddie King was a great bridge for me because he was just so powerful, you know, and he played that 345, you know, he was just great. That was the bridge over into British blues for me. Peter Green, a lot of the guys. Some of the American guys now, currently, you know, that I just love. I think pretty much the king of the hill, even since I was just starting out, just a kid, would be Jeff Beck.
Good call.
And I think that's like the king of the hill for me. He's just great. And as far as a proficient, almost a fusion and a blues guitar player, it would have to be Gary Moore.
English guy, right? Yeah.
Irish.
Or Irish, yes.
And, you know, and then of course on the American side, you get the incredible Robin Ford. You have a great blues artist from Northern California, Chris Kane. Just wonderful, fantastic. There's just so many things, you know, and one of the things that I always think about is I'm kind of careful what I listen to these days, you know, because we all kind of assimilate what we have, you know. It's a lot of times, you know, I hate to use the word, but, you know, crap in, crap out. You know, we have to be careful. You know, we try to serve the music and serve ourselves and not get too involved with, you know, some of the things. We want to keep current and we want to see what's right. But hey, guess what? Basic rhythm, having good people skills, good ensemble skills, that'll always get you working, no matter what.
Yeah.
So is that the networking side of that? Is that what helped to really kick your career into gear professionally?
You know, I think all the times that you would go on an audition, you can go in, say you get an audition for some national act that you like, and you don't know anybody, you don't know a soul, and you come in and you kill it. Chances are, I'm saying about a 99%, you're not going to get the job. You have to have somebody kind of vouch for you, and that's where we were kind of talking about earlier. People are your best resources, because, you know, if you do somebody wrong or vice versa, you know, you have to have somebody you can go to kind of vouch for you. And I think that's what they call dues. And it never stops. We always keep
constantly being paid.
Playing those dues, you know? So that's crazy, you know?
So it is just as important, you'd say, as being able to shred and just having and knowing people as just being having good people skills to get ahead.
You know, yeah, absolutely. You have to say you're going for a road gig. You know, you're living in this little microcosm, and you have to be kind of respectful. And I guess, look, guys, we've all been on the road with guys that we don't like. There are guys that make it a little bit more difficult. The guys that are always late getting in the lobby and holding everybody up. There's always one of those, but you'll find less and less of that these days. So
you can't get away with it really anymore that much.
It's too much competition,
right?
You know, and if you're a sideman gig, you're in a sideman. You know, you're playing a role. You're almost like an actor. Of course, the skills are important. You have to play the gig. But you have to have a certain other set of skills too, which I think maybe a lot of the folks out there aren't really getting on YouTube. There's some things showing up. We can all play the stuff, but you got to play it with people and get along with people and play what's appropriate for the song. It's almost like, the term shredding, I think, is thrown around a little bit too liberally these days. I mean, granted, it is a whole genre, but you got to play the right part in the right spot.
I would almost say, because shredding kind of became like this cliche term, I would say actually the definition of it is the technical skill without the interpersonal skills, without knowing how to play with other people. Maybe that's really what it means at the end of the day.
We could probably look that up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Maybe we can add. Maybe
we could edit a Wikipedia article ourselves.
Shredding. I sit in my bedroom and I play all day long, which is great. And music is wonderful for anybody. Just to play and develop that right side of your brain in this stressful world. I mean, music is great. Whether you're strumming, you're sitting around the campfire. It doesn't matter. Music is a great thing, and to be able to just grab an instrument and play it's a wonderful thing. We don't all have to be, shred dudes.
Yeah.
Shred dudes.
Shred dudes. And actually, you help people with their abilities to shred. You are an educator.
I started teaching guitar at a very early age, in my hometown in Buffalo, New York. And I was really fortunate that I had some great teachers that showed me some really, back then it really was, more about the rudiments, reading, the basic tenets of music and learning that stuff. And I had some really cool inspirational guys, and they always helped me, and I always tried to pass it along. Not to mention, you really enjoy it. I enjoy it, and not everybody learns the same. I have found that, with my students and things, you have to find out how to get in there. And if you get in the sandbox and play with them, that's good. And if they want to take it a little bit further, that's even better. Right. So it really is about the enjoyment of music. And if there's any pros that I could help, I have a lot of guys that we just get together and we just play. All diverse kind of styles and stuff, and there's always something to learn. That's the wonderful thing about guitar and music in general. There's so many different things that you can learn. Always, just got to be open to it.
So you teach everyone from beginners to fellow professionals when, in a way.
I do. And for some reason, I don't know how I've developed this patience, but it's really great to see somebody's eyes light up when they're playing some chords. And they're saying, well, this is how I can form this. And, just a little push in the right direction. And I don't have a cookie cutter approach. I like to design programs for everybody that, really addresses their interest and teaches some basic tenets of music that will take them further. Because what happens is a lot of times intermediate guys will come to me and they've hit a wall. Mm-hmm. They go, well, what do I do now? I've plateaued. What do I do? Well, that goes back. There's some of the groundwork, the foundations maybe weren't sound enough in a couple of places. It's not to say that we don't get into ruts. We all do. I do. But after all these years, you find different ways to get yourself in and out of it. You find different ways to explore, find different kinds of music, get together with some different guys. So that's key.
And see, that's part of the interpersonal skills you need to keep on going is part of the education, because you hit a plateau, you have to get along with someone to learn something.
Absolutely.
And to be taught. Yeah.
Also, to learn how to learn from a diverse personality. That's another skill in itself. If I have some older people that say, for example, they almost liken it to going back to school. It's like you have to almost relearn how to learn. Mm-hmm. But it's a really great exercise for your brain.
The thing I've noticed, I was one of these, that's kind of a story where I'm mostly self-taught, and I had just...
You play great, by the way. He was playing a little bit early, and I'm going, oh, geez, what am I doing here?
But I found myself, at a pretty advanced age, like a couple of years ago, where whatever, as far as I've gotten on my own, there's a ton of holes that I just was sick of, not knowing what to do. And I took lessons for about a year. Shout out to Tim Norton. He's a awesome guitar player, a Berkeley grad, a teacher in San Diego, just for a few months, where he helped me connect a few missing pieces where...
Exactly.
And it just opened up a whole world where I don't have all these like kind of black hole areas where I don't know what to do over anymore. And as I'm older, like, I mean, I'm still kind of a bit lazy with this stuff, but when you're older, there's something in you that, like, if you want to learn this, you kind of you're more open to it. Like, you kind of like the nerdiness. Because when I was like in high school, I just wanted to like
we all want to
get
rock
the
and roll.
lead out. Like, I don't want to do I don't want more homework.
As cliche as it may sound, when a student is ready, the teacher appears.
Exactly.
And it's really true. I found that in my life a lot, regardless what it is. When you're really, really searching for something, all of a sudden, guess what? We throw it out there in the universe, and we can kind of find our way, you know?
So is there anything specific that you do, like when you catch yourself in a rut, like say that Paul was just describing, where I've found myself in, where I go out and either go see shows or go listen back on some albums or new albums, so just to hear a riff, some idea that sparks it up in me, and I'm trying to imitate that and see where it goes.
We're so lucky today to have YouTube and to have a lot of these things. I mean, when I was coming up, when somebody did an instructional tape, it was like they were giving away all their secrets. You know, now the secrets are right there. There's no more secrets. It's there. You got to put the work in.
Kind of a double-edged sword, I find. Like, it makes it so accessible, and like it's a great go-to for me. Like, if I have like a cover gig and I have like 40 songs to learn in like 2 weeks, I don't have time to sit there and figure it out by ear or you know, rummage through.
We used to buy the records, which is a whole nother story. But
that's right. You just find an instruction to learn it. It's great for that. But as a kid coming up, where you don't develop that, just listening to a tape that might be speeding up and slowing down a little bit,
that's the way it was. And different tunings and alternate tunings. What I do for inspiration, again, just like you do, Eric. You know, I'll go to shows. I get on the phone. A lot of it has to do with my mood. If I'm in a good mood, you know, I'm channeling what I'm feeling through the instrument, and I think that's one of the things I'm so grateful about the guitar, is that it really is. If you're playing it kind of for real, you can kind of tell how a person's feeling by how they're playing the guitar, and that to me is the style that I like. I think it communicates to a lot of people. And people can kind of feel it. Let's face it, you know, emotions and feelings, that's really kind of what this thing is really all about. And if you're a real aggressive guy and you're feeling really, you're going to play very, very aggressive. If you're kind of mellow, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. And that's what I always try to strive for when I'm playing it. Of course, you want to hit a certain level, but you want to keep it, hey, the world is in enough chaos. We want to have some fun. Let's have some fun. Let's have some escape. Let's feel something. It's like watching a good movie. You know? Yeah. That's a long answer to a short question, but
it's an extension of you. It's an expressive tool. So
absolutely.
You gotta let it reflect what you're feeling.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing about say maybe more of a blues-based style. You can tell by that vibrato. You know, I'm not turned on right at the moment here, but. Or maybe I am, I don't know. You go, you know, or you're in a little mellower mood. You're in a kind of an aggressive mood. You know, you want to really, so you can reflect a lot of different moods and a lot of different feels. So that's kind of why I gravitate towards more of a blues-based player. You know, I mean, I like all the different styles too.
And it could take you down like a progression of emotions, or you could kind of come into it bummed out, just kind of start noodling around, play something kind of sad and slow, and you might get energized in the middle.
You up.
Yeah, it raises you up, exactly.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
We got a few questions coming in. You want to maybe play a little more, and we could...
Yeah, well, why don't we do some questions, and I can switch guitars, and we're going to play some slide, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime here? Eric, if you want to...
Shout out for you.
Let's see.
And I'll put this other track up.
We got a question from Mike Ruggiero. Do you like or use fuzz?
I do. Once in a while. And then I'll give you a little demonstration. What I use here currently, and I have a ton of fuzz pedals, and I really find that a fuzz pedal really works great with a clean amp as a platform. But I kind of run my amps a little bit dirtier, and I've got a plain old DS1 with a Keeley mod in it. And a guy that helps me put together my pedal boards and stuff, Mr. Jim Cole, he just said, I said, Jim, have you got an extra DS1 hanging around, which is just a real generic.
Most people's first distortion.
Yeah, it's kind of
First
like
distortion.
entry-level distortion right there.
It's like $35 or $40 or whatever, but they're built like tanks, and you get this little kind of compressor mod in it, and I find it really.
Is that essentially what it does? What Keeley puts in there?
It has some sort of a limiter thing, and I didn't. It just came to me. Jim sent this, and he said, "Try this out, see if you like it." And I liked it, and I found it complemented my tube screamer a little bit. As a matter of fact, we used it on the last song. I'll use it for sustaining notes, and I'll use it for other things. It has this kind of a, it can get really grainy. Let's see if we can make it sound like, like.
You just kicked it on.
There it is. Like. It gives
And there's a little LED that lights up.
Now see if I play lighter, it doesn't light up. But if I hit it hard, so it acts like a little bit of like a limiter. So when you're really playing up high, and I find with the fuzz tone too as well, it depends which pickup you're using. Maybe if you're above the 12th fret, sometimes a neck pickup works better. It just tracks better. It makes the notes a little bit fatter, not quite so. Here's the technical term: splatty.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't give you that. But
And there's some fuzzes that are famous for that, for having a low bias and having that starved, dying battery sound.
exactly, exactly. I don't know. This, for being a very average pedal with a nice mod in it, works really, really well. And I'll tell you what, you don't even need the mod. If you want to experiment with some different things, I have a couple of different fuzz tones. And one other cool thing about a fuzz tone is that it will clean up. It will clean up, and so it's very touch sensitive for your volume control. So that's one thing that I found that I really like about it. So sure, bring on the fuzz, you know? Yeah, cool.
And before we go into the song, is there anything, what's different on your slide rig here?
This is a really, really special instrument here. It's also a Summit, and this actually was a prototype. I'm so proud of this thing. It was a gift, and it was signed by Robert GODIN.
Right on the back there, look at
there.
that.
We can get that. And what I always liked was the fact that there was a time when Gibson made a Les Paul model. They had a P90 in the front,
Yeah.
and a humbucker in the back. And I thought, oh, what a cool idea, because when you go to your neck pickup, you can get that big single coily kind of sound. And then when you go to the back, it's a little bit more aggressive, and in the center,
It's a nice split
it'll
there.
sparkle, and that's from a kind of almost a semi-distorted amplifier. So if I turn it up and do the same thing, then the back, and in the middle, and again, it's touch sensitive, so it really.
But they're fairly matched, well matched, despite being one humbucker and one.
A lot of times these get a little bit duller, right? Than compared to the humbucker, but I got a good match on this, and I found it's worked really great for slide playing. And talk about wearing a different suit of clothes. You know, slide playing is so much fun. You know, it can really take you out of that playing too many notes per second mode, and just make things kind of speak like. See what I mean? One note. Play with your fingers.
Nice.
I like that with the making it gain out a little bit just with the volume roll, which is a great example of having good command of your volume control will offer endless timbre changes like that.
you know, even when you're soloing, and obviously this is not really designed to single note, but you vary your volume control. It doesn't always have to be on 10. Vary it down a little bit, you know, and you can get all sorts of different. Jeff Beck is the master of that.
Yeah.
And we can all
But
take a lesson from that.
he does and tone.
Yeah.
He does on the fly tone and volume controls for pretty much every note he plays.
Just amazing.
It's insane.
Just constantly just doing that. Wow.
And a whammy bar in there. I don't know, it's
Just great.
Insane.
Yeah. Just crazy for sure.
Anyway, cool.
And it's aside from that, it is a similar Gibson scale, mahogany back, mahogany neck, maple top. Very, very
Nice
cool.
color.
Yeah, a sort of champagne-y gold top.
Yeah.
Now, do you find yourself using the revoicer switch a lot?
On the slide guitar, no, not so much. I like the fact that it's there. You know, it's kind of like having a Ferrari. If you were so lucky to have a Ferrari, you don't have to drive at 120 miles an hour all the time, but when you want to step on it, it's there. So, I find with open tunings, which is what this is, it's an open E capoed up to F. This song happens to be an F. Why I wrote it in F, I have no idea. But it works out really well. It seems to, the tautness of the strings, I just like the way it responds. And so that's why I do that.
And for those who at home who may not be familiar with slide playing or how you set up your guitar for it, you usually do higher action, and you can do a slide in standard tuning, but it's much more advantageous usually to have an open tuning like this.
You can play both, yes, and there is a little bit of a compromise. I love the fact of putting on another guitar and having different tunings and working with the capo to change keys. And there's basically two sets of tunings. You have your open E and you have your open G. And they're radically different sounding tunings, and I use them all. So with the capo, you can really get another voice. So I'd encourage people to experiment with that. Try some open tunings and capo around a little bit. You can even find some nice chords. It's pretty inspirational.
Right on.
So cool. Cool deal.
Well, how about we check out a little example of some killer slide playing, huh?
This is a tune off the new record, and this is with, there's an upright bass on this and a percussion drum kit halfway through. So we got a little kind of a hybrid thing here. We're doing blues and boogie woogie and slide and the whole bit.
And
so
the record is the Electroacoustic Band, correct?
it is.
There you go.
Here's the shameless plug. Eric, I like it.
That's why we're here.
I like it.
Shameless plugs.
Let's see if we can get this thing going.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Sharpen. That was awesome.
Nice.
See, I almost lost my mic again. Woo! All right, I
know
like
you're
it.
shredding good.
I like it.
So for those that have wanted to get into slide playing so they can get up to the to bring up that word again, that shreddiness we just saw.
Shreddy.
Shreddy. Someone who wants to start out in slide, what would you advise them to do?
I would call that gliding, not shredding.
Gliding. Glide playing, yes.
Climbing. Well, you know, it's find some things, you know, basic, well, okay, just to get into it, you know, raise your action up a little bit. I use a little bit heavier strings. You can still play it quite normally, but what I do, because specifically I'm playing, I can play single notes.
Are those 12 gauge?
I'm going 12, 14, 17 playing,
Okay.
then 32, 42, 52, which aren't crazy heavy, but if I go down, I can almost tune this to an open D for some songs and then capo up as I need it. So like I'm on the road, say with the trio, and you can't bring 2 extra slide guitars. You can't do it. I'm going to see what songs that we're playing and say I tune it to open D, and then I have a song in F. I'll capo to the
I
third
just
fret.
pictured
Can you imagine this?
the next airline scandal. Steve Pfister gets kicked off a plane for taking up every compartment with different guitars.
I'd try. If I could sneak them on, I would. Good Lord, I would do that.
I'm surprised that no airline has opened up to service musicians.
Like specifically?
Yeah. Like being able to, that should be a thing, I think. But I also complain that Apple doesn't have a division of computers that are meant for audio engineering, despite that every major studio using them.
Uses Apple computers. Yeah. Well, you know, flying, like I said, it's a whole nother scene. Open tunings, really cool. If I want to go up to say, well, even G.
Open G's Keith Richards, right?
Yeah,
Stone's
but
open tuning.
he tunes with the 5 on the bottom.
Yeah, the low E missing.
Hence that, yeah. So he gets a lot of. He'll get, the range will go from here to here, and that's the thing about the open E tuning as opposed to the open G. You know, you can still capo up a whole step, and there's a whole range of different styles for you. And you know, a bit about the bottleneck is that, you know, you don't have to play. Here, let's put this back down here. If you play, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I've played on a lot of records where maybe they want a real lyrical melody line, and you can just play. It doesn't have to be, you know. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this idiom, and including minor chords, right? Like the fretting behind, which is Sonny Landreth, and who's.
How does that work?
You know, what you're doing, and you want that minor chord because you've got the raised third here on this string. That's a G. So you want to go. You have to touch the slide a certain way, and then you're fretting behind the slide.
Because it goes under the slide is not designating the note.
So you can.
Wow.
Make something. I put a little chorus on there. Let's write a song.
That's a nice little trick.
See what I mean?
Yeah. Which I hadn't tried before. I wouldn't have thought to do that.
Me neither, and that's one of the things that kind of, I've never got good at slide, and one of the things that kind of turned me off is you're kind of stuck to like the tuning you're
Right.
in, and jumping through different chord structures. I never realized that wasn't.
So many. You got the money. You think, all I can do is play major chords, or else just play the 1s and the 5s.
Right.
Here you can play all sorts of different things just by fretting behind the slide, and that's where setting the guitar up with the right action.
Right,
is
right.
Really
if it's
important.
too low, that's not going to work
It's
for
gonna
you.
just you're standing up and playing, as opposed to here we're all sitting down, kind of informal. But you're standing up, you got to have that guitar slung down a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't be, you know, and yet you have to do it so that your hand goes around the guitar. So sometimes you see a lot of slide guitar players with their guitars up a little tiny bit higher, and that's just the physicality of getting your wrist around the instrument.
Gotcha.
You know?
So it is just like a pure physical thing needed in that case.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
or else you're going to really mess your wrist up.
Real quick, if
Yeah.
you guys want to take some lessons with Steve, where can they contact you to book some lessons?
I've got a lot of guys from Europe that
You do these over Skype as well.
I do them as Skype and FaceTime, and they just get a hold of me through the website, and
StevePfister.com.
StevePfister.com.
Simple enough.
And just drop me an email, and we figure out some times. And I'll send you backing tracks. We do a lot of stuff because one thing about it is we can't play at the same time.
Too much latency.
Too much latency, and I hope they get that together someday. But I can play, I demonstrate, and we get really specific. We talk about it prior to what your goals are, what we want to kind of accomplish. And I found it's no longer here we are in a canyon here in Los Angeles, and a lot of times it's hard for people to get here. And I still have a bunch of private guys that come.
You
when
barely
I'm off the
managed to get a pizza up here before.
It's hard to get a
Yeah.
pizza up here.
The long and winding road. The song was written about the drive up here, by the way.
It is a commute, and it's a commitment. And I still have a bunch of guys, schedule permitting, they come up and we play. And some girls too, hey, come on, ladies, But that's been it. Teaching has always been something I've really enjoyed, and it's been kind of a fun thing for me. So
Right on. We need more educators out there, so we're glad to have Steve Pfister out
Hey,
there available to teach.
You want to answer a couple more questions
Absolutely.
from viewers?
That'd be
Let's
great.
see. We have one from Tuho.
Tuho.
Tuho would like to know. Hi, Steve. Do you have a ritual or a method to put yourself in the right state of mind to create and write new music?
Jack Daniels. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're a classical kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm old school. What I try to do is, I have like a writing day, for example. I regiment when I'm off the road. I'll say, well, okay, Thursday afternoon from this time to this time is my writing day. And I kind of set myself up for that. That's where the phone's shut off, everything's shut off. And I try to have, I try to be as at peace as possible. And I have everything ready to go, the Pro Tools, and I have my instruments ready. And I'll start with something. And if I have something, I record it on my phone. And if it makes it from the phone, then I start working it up. And sometimes it can be laborious, and other times it just flows. So, yeah, there's little tricks that we all use.
What about live? What about before a show?
Before a show, a lot of times we don't have that luxury. We're riding all day. We get that. What I find about that is to play with people that you really like and that you respect.
And keep a bottle of Jack Daniels on hand.
Absolutely. But yeah, other than that, well, you want to get in the performing, state of mind, and that we all have our little pre-show rituals. You get dressed beforehand, and I'm a firm believer in not walking on the stage in street clothes. People are paying to see something; they want to see something a little bit more special. Having a nice backdrop, having good production, making the sound as absolutely good as possible, and just really doing the best for every possible show that we can do. And a lot of that can be time consuming, into your ritual. You want to get out there and do it. But I usually like about 10 minutes beforehand where it's kind of silent. We all meet on the side of the stage, we'll all connect in some way, and then boom, hit it. That's where the professionalism come in.
Any more questions out on that?
Sure, yeah, we got another one here from Cedric. Hey Steve, do you have any go-to guitar licks or motifs that you don't mind sharing with us? He wants the secret.
Let's switch guitars.
You want to do the
play that.
Montreal?
Yeah,
This pretty one right here.
Let's bust this one out. Some go-to licks. Yeah, I got a couple. Oh, this thing here was great. Say I'm playing and somebody wants something kind of fast. What I'll do is, we got a little sharp bass string there.
How do you make it seem like you're playing really fast without actually playing really fast?
Push the tape.
Yeah.
No. If you're playing, say you take a pentatonic scale, just for example, and you divide it up into numbers. You can play it, say, 6 notes at a time backwards. It's like, so here's our pentatonic scale, right? So let's play C. So what if we divide that up into... All right? You can go faster, of course. Don't look at the mess ups. But
That sounded like the Intro to Cliffs of Dover.
well, you know, and there's a lot of say a major scale arpeggio. So you can play a minor scale arpeggio as well. To and so. You know, you can combine all sorts of different things.
So it's taking those fundamentals in chunks and
Yeah.
kind of
Subdividing them.
Yeah.
You can do it 5 notes at a time. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can take like an Ionian mode. I'm a big fan of changing fingerings on conventional. In rock playing, which is very different from jazz playing, we're thinking more of a scaly concept. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll change the fingering. Say we're playing, say, a Phrygian thing. You want a minor kind of a feel. If you're playing, this is one position that I would play. It's a little different, but now backwards, maybe I'll go. But then your soloing comes. Then if I change the fingering, get a little blues in there. And then you can go the other way. Instead of, it's a totally different sound. Mm-hmm. So just by approaching your fingering a little bit different, perhaps 3 notes per string, sometimes 2, you can really kind of do more with less. If that makes any sense. Yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of musical stuff. If you kind of set these artificial limits, it actually opens up more possibilities. It's kind of counterintuitive like that.
It is. It is. If you take a blues scale, all right, you know, or how many different ways can we play? We can go. We can go. Maybe instead of bending the high note, those kind of things. See, whereas
and
subtle differences.
And it's not just going all out shredding of just having it like a sweep technique and tapping ready. It's doing something that's something different to inspire your playing and keep it fresh for you.
That's the whole idea. You want to let it flow through you. You don't want to, like a lot of what we're playing here, just for like during the tracks and stuff. A lot of it is improvised. You know, I'm not playing. I'm kind of going even with the moment with us all here, just sitting in the studio, just kind of playing. It's not. I generally won't play it the same way twice. Maybe I'll have an entrance and I'll have an exit, but the middle part, I'm just kind of letting it flow. And that's another thing that I really enjoy, the spontaneity. Nice. You know, it keeps it fresh, keeps us from being rote. Same thing all the time.
Always learning, right?
Trying. Yeah.
So while we're on it, why don't we tell us about the Montreal Supreme here? This
guitar is, it's a real beast. I love it. And before I got involved with GODIN, I was a big 335 player. And I had one 335, as we were talking about earlier, with a trapeze tailpiece. And nobody wanted the trapeze tailpiece. And I found, after changing the frets and doing a few things to it, that I loved playing it through a loud amp like a Marshall. I could really drive the top of the guitar. I didn't lose sustain, I almost gained sustain. Yeah. It's almost the opposite of what we normally would think. And this poor guitar has taken me around the world probably 18 times. It had been refretted 7 times.
Wow.
And it fell over. It's done everything in the world, and I finally had to almost retire it because I felt bad about bringing it on the airlines. And appeared this instrument from the GODIN company, and it's got a block down the center, and it has the H bracing in it. And I asked the guys, could we put a Bigsby on it? And of course, the Bigsby is great for you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. You can
Surf style,
you
yeah.
can almost Jeff Beckett. You can do a lot of things. You set it up right, still should be in tune.
Yeah.
And they're relatively light strings. I don't use heavy strings. I think life is short. I don't think we should work that hard. But that's a whole other subject. But why I like about this is because the strings are traveling on top of the guitar. So when you're playing loud, if we can simulate that here, even though we're not playing real loud, you hear the harmonic? Is that extra? If we're a little closer to the speakers, you know, it's going to sing. Every single note's going to sing, yet still be articulate enough, you know.
And that spruce block has the breathe-through design, which
That's it.
makes it so resonant. It really is
You
gorgeous.
can hear it acoustically, yeah. Here we turn it. You know, so it's alive, is what it is. You keep the nut cut correctly, and keep the bridge saddles nice and lubed up, and you got a fighting shot. Keeping it in tune. I play it in the trio all the time. I love the guitar. It's great.
And it's with Seymour Duncan's, I believe, right?
Yes, it's an El Nico 2, I believe, and it's a custom.
El Nico 5,
Is that what it is,
think.
El Nico
Yeah.
5? You know, I'm kind of new to those pickups, but I'll tell you, they match really well. That's one thing. All the engineers over at GODIN, it's like, see, the volume loss is very little. It's complementary.
Very well matched.
So yeah,
And it's Gibson scale, 24 3/4 mahogany neck, and that's actually maple top, back, and sides on that.
yeah, isn't that weird? I forgot about that, but I looked it up this morning so I could remember to tell you guys. I'm glad somebody was paying attention.
All maple does sound quite beautiful.
And this thing really, you know, there's a lot of gigs. Say you put a little bit of echo on there, you know. You know, you can a little chorus on there. Why not? See what I mean? You can get that
Nice.
little subtle shimmer in there. That's nice. You're not going to be dive bombing too much, but so little tiny things you could make this guitar do a lot of different styles.
Now, I noticed you got the two digital delays on there.
Mm-hmm.
Just two different settings that you like? A
You know-
DD5 and a DD2?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the,
by the way, Steve's still rocking a DD2, which
Yeah.
makes me happy, and a CE2 next to it,
my favorite chorus.
right?
My favorite chorus. And it's so simple. You see, I keep the, what is it, the depth knob. I keep it,
Maxed
Taped.
out where it
Maxed
should
out.
be.
And taped up forever.
I tape it up so that I can't accidentally hit it with my foot. And sometimes, I mean, it'll go so far as to give you a real crazy warble.
Now, is this one of the Japanese ones from the 80s or just a more recent one?
This is one of the really old ones. This is an old one. I bought it for $25. Like,
Nice.
I don't know how long ago, and I had a spare. So, but you can take it off the Leslie Land.
Get that cold shot, the Stevie Ray
Yeah.
Vaughan
Oh, you can
sort
even
of
do
sound.
that.
Yeah.
You can get close. It's not quite the depth there. Let's try this. You got to get a little strattier for that. But that you can get that with the CE2. Just two knobs.
Right. Yeah. It's there's a reason that two knob has stuck around for so long.
Oh, sorry. It's with the DD5. What I do is for certain ballads, you're going to need that long sustain. So what I do is this. I'll set it to like this. Hear that? So I will be.
Gives it the tail just to make it really sing and hold out.
And it does change the whole, well, it gives the guitar a little bit of space, a little bit more dimension, only on the ballads though. For the fast stuff, you don't want to let it get it cloudy.
I've had one of these. That's probably the oldest pedal I own is the DD5. I've had one for a while.
Because I don't use it for very long, like for the really long, spacious delays.
Right.
What I'll do sometimes is I always time it with the slap. I'll hit it, and I'll just go on real time. Well, that was like 1, 2. So it subdivides it. So, and then you can get away with some more. You know? See what I mean? And it won't cloud it up too much by subdividing the delay that way. So I know you can do it with the tap tempo and you can make it, but this works for me.
I've been trying to do the tap tempo with the DD5, but for something just doesn't quite always click with it.
Do you use it in effects loop?
I used to. I got tired of setting it up, running the extra cables.
You got to bring the extra cables and you got to make sure they work. That's how I find. That's how I run my delays in chorus. I run all the top here in the loop.
Let's go through the effects loop, and the two drives and the wah are hitting the front of the amp.
Exactly.
Right.
Right on.
Now I've experimented with different ways to put the wah in different things. I find with only 2 pedals in the front, I don't notice a whole lot of difference. I know order is really important. I want to hit the tube screamer before I hit the distortion. That's one thing on occasions when I use them together. But putting the wah here towards the end, or the beginning, depending on which way you look at it, it works really well for me, and it doesn't really affect the way the wah sounds. So simplicity, that's the key.
And that's one thing that is a debate, like with fuzz and wah, wah before fuzz, fuzz before wah. But there's no right way, no wrong way to do it, but it's finding what works right for you.
For you, exactly.
As you just said, you found the wah works in front for you and makes a difference.
Can I name drop real quick?
Sure.
I was in Nashville, and I had the opportunity to meet Billy Cox. And a friend of mine from a guitar company sent him a bass. And I said, I want to bring it to him. I want to meet him, So we got to talking about stuff, and he's a really cool guy. But he told me the way Jimmy would set his fuzz bass and his wah-wah pedal, and they were totally the opposite that you would ever think. He went into this is from Billy Cox himself. He would put in the, he said, I go into the fuzz bass first, then the wah. And then sometimes he had a little bit of the univibe towards the end. But it was totally the opposite the way we always thought. And how can you argue with that?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he just drove those Marshalls and made all those great sounds. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You hear it from the guy,
Yeah, I
pretty
played
cool.
with him, but it was his Dallas Arbiter fuzz bass into the wah.
Into the wah.
Into the wah.
Yes.
Hey, you heard it, folks.
It was great.
That's the secret sauce that you all are missing out there.
Truly.
Oh, man.
Well, can we hear a little bit of
Should we do a little
how this
of
Montreal
this thing here?
sings?
Let me, what do we got? Let me pull up another song real quick. Let's hear, where's Cato? Here it is. Don't you just love Pro Tools? When it works.
Yeah. I love it, all its errors and gremlins that come with it as well.
It comes with a few, yeah. So, it's great. Here again, we have just some a bass and a drum submix, and I'm just playing it live like the way I would if I was playing with the fellas. And this is a song off a record that I did a couple years ago. Some great musicians, Ray Brinker on drums and Rick Barabrace on bass, and we did this record called The Trifecta. And here's one of the tunes from it, and it's a blast to play. So here it goes. Here we go. Chihuahua. We go. Oh my God! Woo! That was fun.
Yeah, that spruce and maple on that thing is snappy sound.
Do you notice how the notes kind of pop off it too? Even you think with the hollow body it would be more mellow, but you can really get that kind of a the really attacking sort of. And then you could
Get jazzy when you want it.
jazzy, and then turn the volume up.
So that says something to the versatility. GODIN makes great instruments,
Their
And
electrics
it's-
are killer.
right?
They're really good, and they're a great value, and they're made here in North America. And there's some great aftermarket parts, and they're roadworthy, and they're half of what a Gibson is.
Yeah.
Should I
Just
have said
saying.
that?
I think they've already stepped into their coffin. We're just hammering the nails down.
Oh, geez, so I've heard, yeah.
But it's, I mean, you don't have to go have a guitar with hotter pickups and one with
No.
with something that's a little quieter with some Seymour Duncan jazzes. I mean, this can do it all. This is a great road guitar,
This
and
is
you use it in the
wonderful.
studio though too,
I
right?
use it in the studio. I use this thing on everything, and if I need, I'll go to the El Rayo pickups. You know, to give me more of that focus sound. This is a big sound, and you're playing it through a Marshall or any sort of loud amp for the trio. And we're going to talk about the tour coming up.
That's true. Yes, February 2018.
Yeah, we're going next year. The trio. We're going back to Europe. And it's our first run for the year. We're going to be back summer for the festivals, and hopefully in the fall this time again in Europe, you know, for 2018. So we start off in Belgium, and it's all on the website, you know, stevepfister.com, and we've got a killer trio. Barend Courbois, one of the best bass players in the Netherlands, has been fortunate enough to have him playing with me. And what an asset, what a great guy, what a player. And I've got Sandro Feliciano, a great Brazilian drummer.
Nice.
That's we play together all the time here in SoCal. But we're going to go over and we're going to play loud rock and roll and play lots of notes and have a lot of fun.
So any particular clubs or locales that come to mind that you're looking forward to going back to?
There's a great club in Belgium, and everybody plays there. You know, Luke Ether to Michael Landau to everybody. You know, it's a great stop on the road called the Spirit of 66.
That's a great name for a club. Spirit of 66.
Yeah, and we're that's the first night of the tour, and so we'll be there. And you know, Europe has been really good to me, and I love going over. I love playing, and we've got good production. We're gonna put on a nice show, and I hope everybody comes out.
You guys touring with anyone and bringing an opener with you, or?
No openers. It's 2 sets, 2 shows.
Oh,
2
really?
shows
Per
per
night?
night, yeah.
Wow.
So we're doing 2 shows, and if we turn the house and, willing, we're still playing 2 shows a night, and they're different shows. So we have 2 completely different segments of music to play. Lots of slide, lots of different stuff. Barend's a virtuoso, funky, play the whole thing, and we do a lot of really diverse kind of stuff, but it's all got that kind of a that rock and roll vibe, and dare I say it, we mean every note we play.
Now, you were kicking around Europe with Lita Ford, right? And was it
Long time
88,
ago,
89,
yeah.
something like that?
My first, actually, it was the late 80s, and we were so fortunate, we got on a Bon Jovi tour. And we played, 4 nights at Wembley. It was big stuff. And I think the coolest thing about
I'm trying to imagine stepping onto that stage in that arena. I can't even fathom
You
that.
got to go out in a diaper. There's no other way.
it was
That's
great.
required.
We played the Olympia in Paris. We played 4 nights at the NSC in Birmingham. It was an absolutely great thing. And Lita was a great boss. She was great to me, and really got to cut my teeth on the big stages and do that kind of stuff. And the coolest thing about that tour, other than getting to take part in it, was that John Bon Jovi would invite me to play their encores with him.
Oh, cool.
Oh, really?
On a lot of nights.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was great. So one night I got to play with Elton John and Brian May.
Wow.
And he didn't, just because I was in the opening act, he'd have all of us or some of us up to play. And it was great. One night I came into the hall early, and they're up there doing a sound check, because I didn't want to sit around the hotel. I wanted to, I wanted to go down to the gig. Yeah. And he goes, Steve, and I go, oh, me? You know what? We just got on this tour. And he goes, do you know we're an American band? And I go, yeah, I know it. And so we got up there and we rehearsed it, and sure enough, every other night, we'd get up and we'd play We're an American Band after they did. See, in Europe, there's not the curfews that they have here. Here you got to shut it down by a certain hour, else the unions get involved. Over there, they would do their two encores, and then we'd come out and jam.
Really?
We'd play Creedence Clearwater songs. We played Grand Funk Railroad songs.
If people want to go home, they can go home. If they want to hang out,
Trust me, 17,000 people stayed every night, and it was a gas for me to be able to play with those guys, and it was one of the cool experiences ever. It was really great. So yeah, that's
awesome.
the first time over in Europe for me. It was wonderful, great
What was
experience.
what was the first national tour you did in the States?
Oh wow, first national tour was with the Iron Butterfly. I was a hired guy.
Yeah.
And we played on a bill with Savoy Brown, the great Kim Simmons, blues guitar player, who's one of my idols when I was coming up. They'd always play in my hometown. I'd watch them all the time. Then we got to be friends, and we got to play on the same bill. And Leslie West and Mountain.
Really?
And the headliner was Mark Farner, and was Grand Funk. So I got to be on this bill with my idols, my childhood idols, and that was really cool.
That's a hell of a way to start a career.
It was fun.
intimidating?
When you're just young and you want to get out there and learn and play, let's put it this way: I was ready every night. I was ready to play. I did, and it was great to watch the guys and get friendly with everybody. It was really great experience.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's a hell of a way to I'm still stuck on that. Like that's a great first tour. Have we gotten any more questions from?
I think that's it for now. Did you get to trade any solos with Brian May?
We probably did, but I have no idea. Stages are huge. We also got to play with the Scorpions a lot.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So it was like we'd have 4 guitar players up there, each with their own little Marshall. This is at the end of the night, and we got to play some crazy stuff. Matthias is a great guitar player, and so is Rudolph. We had a great time. Yeah, man, it's where else can you do this kind of thing? You have this thing in your hand. It's a charmed life. I'm very grateful.
Any crazy stories from back then? More backstage stuff? That was a different era in rock and roll.
Kind of was. It's kind of, yeah, we would get as crazy as our bodies would let us, but the main thing was the show. It always was for me, was to get out there and play and do the best I could every night and just really put it on. Because that's really ultimately the reason you're there, is not for the trappings, it's for the gig, you know. Don't get me wrong, we had some trappings too.
And really that's the attitude that allows you to have longevity in the business.
I think so. And
you don't want to burn out.
I'm just so glad that I can have the best of both worlds these days. I can go out and do my thing, do my trio, and still be able to do sideman stuff and session stuff and teaching. So it's diverse and it's rich, and I'm very thankful. And ultimately, I'm thankful for you guys coming all the way down from San Diego to come up here and hang out with me for an evening. So
Love it.
It has been a pleasure.
Thanks you guys so very, very much. Thanks Florentino. Thanks all the guys. You should see what we got here behind the scenes, everybody. This is
Thank you, Cedric.
Cedric and
behind it.
Florentino have
Dude,
been
he's
helping out
doing
with-
quite a
great
juggling
work.
act back there.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there's Flor. He wants to get in the scene.
I'll see. I'll turn one towards Cedric back there. There he is.
There, there we go.
A little peek behind the curtain.
So I appreciate it, you guys, so very much. Thanks for coming up and hanging out. And I had a great time down in San Diego with Pitbull.
Oh yeah.
It was fun. It's fun. Great store. Great. They're very knowledgeable. They got everything in there. So.
And if you want to check out one of these Godins, or if you like the sound of the El Rayos, we just started carrying Lawler. Check out some Boss pedals. You can always come into Pitbull Audio. Go get me out of the back office, please. We can go check out some gear, see if you want to get anything. But if you guys want to have lessons with Steve, or perhaps hire him for a session, you can go to stevepfister.com. You can also buy his music there, such as Live Bullets, the live album, or the electroacoustic band, which you will be touring with through February.
Yeah, we're going to tour
in
on
Europe.
the record, yes.
And look out on the website for any domestic dates from there.
There's going to be a run come April, May. We're still putting it together. So
Awesome.
look at the site, and I always keep it updated. So come check it out there, and I appreciate it.
www.stevepfister.com, correct?
Woo, right.
There we go.
Want to play us out with something?
Yeah, I'll play a little something. Why not? How about a little unaccompanied boogie woogie?
Sure.
What do you think?
good.
Gotta do it. Thanks, everybody.
That's quite an exit. Thank you very much, Steve, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
Sweaty hands, warm heart.
No worries.
I'm Eric
Thanks,
Lucero.
Okay, let's see.
Sharpen, Talk Radio, powered by Pitbull Audio. Thank you for joining us this episode.